Today, DFB ran what might be one of his last one-day webcam old school MTG events. He's done a handful of these during quarantine, and they have made the troubled times like 10,000% more bearable. DFB, we thank you for your service, and we hope that the next one-day event you run, I'll be able to attend that one in person. For this event, I ran some sort of Eureka combo deck, so let's take a look. Let's just tackle this from the upper left to the lower right. The mana, all the normal stuff. The notable thing here is the lack of Mishra's Factory. This being heavy on 3 colors with double casting costs in each one, along with the splashing the other 2 colors, made the color requirements pretty strict. So even though I wouldn't be looking to win from random chip damage from factories, they're still kind of nice in decks like these to trade with opposing factories, but I didn't really have space in this monstrosity, so they didn't really get in. Next up we have Recall, which is both powerful by itself, and because this is a combo deck, sometimes you end up with too many copies of one of the combo pieces, and you can look to trade them in for more useful things. All the powerful restricted cards are kind of gimmies, and then there's a single Ivory Tower. Sometimes you just need a little extra cushion for life, and we'll swing back to this later. Disrupting Scepter, we'll also swing back to this later also. Demonic Tutor and Balance were the previously mentioned splash cards. They're just powerful. Mind Twist was a last minute cut for me, but I did kind of miss it not having it throughout the day, so that was probably a mistake. Mind Twist is too powerful. You sometimes just win games off it. Time Vault. I've said a lot about this card in my Vaulted Hog video, and so I'll mostly pass on it here. If you want to hear more about the tricks around this card, go watch that Decktech from the Winter Derby, and there's a lot of things going on with this card all over the place. Channel Fireball is on my old school bucket list to turn 1 kill someone with this at some point. I figured if I wanted to be able to cross off that bucket list item, I had to start playing it in my deck so I at least have the possibility of drawing it. You'll have to see whether or not I get to cross this off this event, but at least the chance is there. Mirror Universe makes the Fireball easier sometimes, along with buying a lot more time occasionally, kind of like Ivory Tower, but real big. Overloading disenchant targets of your opponent kind of clears path for this one to frequently survive by the time you get to this type of thing. They often don't have that sort of stuff remaining. So I believe when you're building a deck, you should basically try to strand opponents with as few good disenchant targets as possible so that they're not great cards and they kind of sideboard them out. Or you should have way more things that they want to destroy than they have disenchants. And I went with the second path of this deck here. There's all sorts of things that you want to disenchant, but no one's packing 15 disenchants because you can. Arborio is one of my pet cards. It works great with Time Vault, and the plan is, once you have both of them, is to have each player take 2 turns in a row for the rest of the game. So I would take my first turn normally, playing whatever, and then on my Time Vault turn, I do nothing to activate Arborio. Then that lasts until my next turn. So on both of my opponent's next turns, they can't attack. And I can keep this up indefinitely, playing cards only every other one of my turns, and my opponent will never be able to attack again. And some decks have just fits trying to play against this sort of strategy, and they have to be able to deal with either the Arborio or the Time Vault before they get to ever attack ever again. The other thing about Arborio is even if I don't do anything and I'm just trying to keep it active and just drawing a card doing nothing every turn, I can always catch up with Eureka later. So if I skip a bunch of turns and have a full hand, Eureka catches me up and doesn't help my opponent as much because they've just been playing normal turns. The next things up are the things that actually Eureka out are Basalt Monolith Power Artifact combo and Ollie from Cairo and Spectral Cloak combo. The reason I want to Eureka these out is, rather than just casting them, is so that the opponent can't respond with things like Disenchant, Shatter, Lightning Bolt, or Swords to Plowshares. They can only cast these things after the Eureka is done resolving. So for the case of Power Monolith, I go to make, after the Eureka, I go to make mana and then untap it. And if they have the disenchant, they disenchant there, I can just respond to the disenchant with that 3 mana that I made by untapping power the Monolith again. And still going infinite. So yeah, still end up destroying it, but I'll have functionally infinite mana there unless they have, at minimum, 3 disenchants that they can play in response, plus an extra disenchant or shatter effect for every single extra mana I have. And then they have to respond to the untap every single time and run me out of those. So at the bare minimum, tapping the basal Monolith produces 3 mana. I spend 1 of it to untap, then they have to respond with a disenchant. I can spend another mana to do it again and again. So yeah, it's I don't think it's ever going to happen where somebody has like 4 disenchants in their hand, 8 mana up, and and I have no extra mana whatsoever. So that's a fine way to do it, especially since Eureka puts in extra lands from your hand, so you can put it in all those. It just dodges all that stuff pretty well. The Ali and Cloak, the Cloak will already be on him, making him untargetable, so there's never going to be a window to bolt or swords him. And because by the time they're allowed to cast that, once Eureka is resolved, the Cloak is already on the Ali. So he's never been in play without a Cloak. And then a lot of decks are kind of soft locked behind this for a long time, and it will buy me enough turns, hopefully, to fireball them before they can ever find an answer to him, because first they have to take off the Cloak before killing him. And like I mentioned before, once you overload all those disenchant targets, they kind of want to save one for a bunch of things. They can't hit everything. Also, in the face of him being my only creature, do you even keep swords in your deck after sideboarding? I have no idea. As for my sideboard, some of the cards came in frequently, the main 2 being like Mahamoti and Time Elemental. They're just extra things that are annoying to Eureka Out or cast. They're a little bit annoying with Cloak, just to make sure that they survive until they get to do their thing. There's like a Maze of Ith to go with the Mahamoti, so you can attack with it, and then you can untap it with your Maze. Stuff like that is just kind of goofy. Then ever-present like blasts, those came in all the time. As usual, I'll be posting. Oh, I should go back and talk about Ivory Tower and Disrupting Scepter. The Ivory Tower is good with Arborio because a lot of times you just kind of skip turns and you want to, you'll end up with a bigger hand. It buys you some more turns. When you're stuck at 1 with Ali and have an Ivory Tower to start taking you off of 1 again, it keeps your opponent honest in that they have to keep on attacking and taking you back down to 1. Otherwise, you could get into spaces where you can draw extra cards with Sylvan Library, or if you do balance away like a bunch of their creatures, they could have a hard time killing you again once they deal with the Ali. The Disrupting Scepter, it's kind of nice to have something to do under Arborio when you're not allowed to cast things, but you're still allowed to activate Disrupting Scepter without breaking the Arborio. The other nice part about that is when you're trying to Eureka, it takes out the cards that they could be casting in their hands. The other thing that it does there is it makes it so they can't be holding stuff back, because if you do end up emptying their hands, you might not have to wait for Eureka to play out one of your combos, because you can kind of take the gamble that they won't have the answer top deck right away, so you can play them over the course of 2 turns, the Ali, and then the Cloak, or the Basal Monolith, then the Power Artifact. So you can kind of split it up once their hand is empty, along with making the Eureka not as good for them. So Disrupting Scepter was pretty vital for doing that sort of things. So as usual, I'll be posting the rounds over the next few days, so stay tuned for that. Thanks again, DFB, for running such a great event. And hopefully you'll enjoy these things. Bye.